Welcome to the Easy Sped Tracker user training. This is the training for instructors and aides. Easy Sped Tracker program is an internet-based program and can be used on any device that has internet connection and a current browser. Each user will receive login information from info@EasySped. You'll receive an invitation invite to log in. Once you click that invitation invite, it will bring you to a login screen, which you will create a password. Once you create the password, the system will log you in automatically. Then at that time, you'll be able to change your password. When you do log in, though, you will log in with your email address and then your password, and then you can have it remember me. If you forget your password, this is where you'll go to the login screen and click Forgot Password and then follow the directions for resetting your password. So the user is in control of managing their password. Once you're logged in, it will bring you to the time tracking screen. At the top of the time tracking screen, it will show your name. If you hover over your name, this is where you can change your password. Also where you can log out. There's also a log out button on the tabs. I do recommend that you log out of the program each day. When you log out, there are validation codes that will alert you if you have left time open and running. If you leave time open and running from a previous day, you will have to stop the timer, or you'll have to go into the time tracking to the dashboard to the time entries and edit that time and stop the timer. You will not be able to log time for a student that has an open running timer. Also, if you notice at the top of the screen, if you're assigned to more than one campus, this is where you can switch which campus you're at. There's no need to log in and out for each campus you're assigned to. So if you do have to go to multiple campuses, you just go to the top bar and click the campus that you're at, and then those students will be on the screen for you. Also, too, across the top black bar, you'll see the little Easy Sped Tracker with the home sign. That is how you toggle back and forth between the dashboard, which is where all the time entries are, and how you can manage your groups. So to toggle back and forth, you just go to the little home sign, and it will toggle you back and forth between the front, the time tracking screen, and the dashboard. Also, too, once you receive your initial invitation to log in, it will take you directly to your district URL site. So that will be shown in the URL bar. And I recommend that you bookmark that site. That will be your login site for your district, for the program. Okay, so on the time tracking screen, to track time, you need to make sure that you have a current browser. You also need to make sure on the device that you're using, if you are using an iPad or tablet or smartphone, that you are in the right time zone setting, and it is set not to log you out or to time out. If your device times out or logs out while you have time tracking, it will not log that time. You'll have to start over with that time. So just a few things ahead of time. If you'll go into your settings, check your time zone, and then make sure it's set to not time out or log off. Also, too, with a tablet or an iPad or a smartphone, a stylus pen works very well with hitting the buttons. Your fingers don't always hit the buttons correctly on those devices. And also, too, entering notes might take a little longer on those type of devices, so you may want to go back and enter your notes from a desktop or a laptop. Okay, if you'll notice on the time tracking screen, across the tabs, you have the track time. Dashboard is where your time entries are located. Reports, your student list, add new, and this is where you can add new students, add your group. Codes, the codes are just recommended codes. You do not have to use these codes. These are just recommended shorthand codes for entering notes. If you do use these codes or create your own codes, I would keep a list. If you do have a site visit from TEA, they will ask for a copy of your list. The user guide is also on the tabs. Okay, so to track time, your students are in there by campus and by grade level, and you can create a monitor group. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment. A monitor group is if you go into the same classroom and you see the same students each day, then you can create a group so you're not having to individually select students on the list. The only thing with that group, though, if a student is absent, it's the user's responsibility to make sure that student has not had time logged for them. So you can either go ahead and stop the time immediately at 0 and put in the notes that the student is absent, or if you do log time, go into the dashboard and delete that entry out. Or you can edit the end time to 0 and just put in the notes the student is absent. So I will show you how to add students and groups in a moment. We are going to, I'm going to show you how to track time right now. So to track time on the student list, the groups will always be at the top of the list. So if you do create a group, it will show at the top of the list. Or you can track individually. To track individually, you collect as many students as you need, the subject, and then your service option. The service options can be customized, so we can name those for whatever service option that your district needs to match the student's IEP or the ARD. So in this demo, we have the service options as CM, intervention, or inclusion. So for this service option, I'm going to click CM or intervention. If I already know, I'm going to go into that math class and do the same accommodation, like maybe read a test, give oral directions. I can go ahead and put that note in there and it will show up on each student's time. So I'm going to go ahead and enter RA for reading assistance, start my timer, and the time will run at the bottom of the screen while I'm working with those students. If I need to add another student, say another student walked into the class that wasn't there before, same thing, just go click his name, the subject, the service area, enter the note, and start the timer. And that you can add as many students as you need to with those running timers. You only see the students that you're tracking time for. If you leave a timer open and forget to stop a timer, other users can still access that student. You will not be able to track time for that student until you stop that timer. Once I have finished working with that student, I can stop one timer or I can stop all the timers. If you'll see on the end time, there's a little calendar. This is where you can edit the end time. So if you stop the timer too soon, or if you need to let it run, you can just go ahead and let it run and not save it. And if you'll see the now button, you can click the now button and it'll pre-fill the current time now for you. This is also where you can edit if you leave a timer open from the previous day. Just click on the little calendar, go back to yesterday's time, and enter your yesterday's date, I'm sorry, and enter the end time. You cannot add future time in the system. You can if you need to go back and add time from a previous day. You can do that also. There is a manual enter option. So if you the internet's out or for some reason you had to just log time paper pencil, you can go back and manually enter that time. I will say it's not designed to do a lot of days of manually enter time. One day is not bad. If you try to do a week, it's going to take you a while to get that entered. Okay, so once you have stopped the timer and say I'm going to go back and do now on this one and update that because I'm stopping it now. I stopped it too soon. Then I just click the save and that sends that time away. If I want to save all of them, I can come down to the bottom and say click save all at one time. If I need to enter additional notes, maybe check understanding, used a calculator, and maybe on this student, they were off task, maybe threw a pencil, maybe you tried the motivator, or they had a BIP, maybe a motivator. Any notes that you want to put in there, that box will expand for you. And then once you're finished, just click Save All, and it sends all your timers away. Now, if you'd like to create a group and track with a group, same process. You select your group, the subject area, the service option, any notes already that pertain to all the students. Start your timer, and it will bring in all the students that are assigned to that group. Your timer does have to run for a minute to log time. So if Calvin was absent and I would go ahead and immediately stop his timer, adjust the time back, and there's a little sliding scale here, or you can actually manually enter that there on the screen. And I would just put absent in the notes and save his time and send that one away. It's going to ask you, do you want the start and stop times to be the same? Yes, and it's gone. And then I'll leave this timer running for this student while I'm working with him, and then I will enter my notes. And so I gotta stop the timer now, enter my notes. Maybe we used a book, guided, positive reinforcement, save. To enter your time manually, same process, except you're going to use the manually enter time to do your date and time. You can do it groups if you need to, or individual. So I'm going to individually select a student, the subject, the service option, and this, if you're manually enter, you'll go ahead and enter your notes at this time. So maybe I used a graphic organizer, and maybe this student had an FM system, and so I faced the student. Maybe I used a visual reminder. Then I would enter my date and time. So if you click the Now button, it'll pre-fill your date and time now, and then you can go in and edit. And you can edit by using the little calendar. So if I want to go back to yesterday, and then I need to adjust the time, say it was 9 o'clock, I can do that with the scale. Same thing with the end time. If I hit the Now button, it'll pre-fill now, or you just use the calendar. And you also can actually type directly on the screen. So if you needed to if it was quicker for you to just type it in. And then once you have this information, just click this submit button. Do not click the start timer with manual time. You're going to click the submit button once your time is entered and your date is entered correctly. And then that automatically goes to the database. There are validation codes to help you with keying in your data, with putting your PM before AM, your dates matching, and then some other like excessive minutes, start and stop times the same. So we do have some validation codes in there to kind of help you catch some of your keying in errors. So that is the time tracking. That's real time tracking, and then your manually enter time tracking. On the dashboard, across the tabs, add new is where you add new students. So, and I would check with your district or your charter, or whatever school entity you're with, and see if there's a system, whether they have a central person that does the adding for you, or if they want the instructors to do the adding. Aides cannot add students. Aides have limited rights. So if you have aides that need to have more rights, so we'll have to make those instructors. So you would just enter this information, the last name, first name, the student ID is required, grade level, assign the campus, and this is where you can go ahead and enter the required minutes for that service, for the service options that you're tracking, and the interval, and then submit. You can also enter any notes that you would need to put in there. And then to add a new group, same process. Name your group, select the campus you're assigning the group to, and then the student drop down, you'll go down and select the students that you want in that group. So it is the user's responsibility to manage the group and make sure the group is updated, and to make sure that you're not logging time for student that's not in that group at that time. Okay, you also have your student list. And within your student list, this will be the students that are at your campus. You have a student ID, the last name, first name, grade level, campus, the required minutes for the service option that your district is tracking time for, and then in the notes. Now, the time based on the art is entered for some reports, and also kind of help the teacher manage her time with those students to make sure time is being met. You do not have to have the times entered for the program to work. So these can be 0, and the program will still log time for you and keep track of the time that was met for you, and you'll be able to run reports. If you want to take advantage of helping monitor the times need to be entered. We are doing some data shares with some IEP companies, so you might check with us to see if the company you're using is a data share company. Otherwise, we can upload these if you send those in with the template, and they are already pre-filled in the template. We can upload this, and then it's the district's responsibility to make sure it gets updated if you have an ARD to change the time. Or you can manually enter this time. The users can manually enter it themselves to put that in there. It's based on total time. So if you have a student that has a service time, for example, this one says inclusion. If it's 15 minutes of reading it a week, and maybe a day, and 15 minutes of math, it's going to be your total time here, and then they just put the breakdown in the notes. The total time, and it just gives you a total calculation on the report of how much time is left to meet for that day or week or month for that student. And you'll see that in just a moment when we get to the reports. Within the student list, there's the edit button. So it's very simple to edit this information. If you need to change the campus for the student, you just click the box. You can, if the name's misspelled, adjust the name, the student ID, grade level, and this is where you can change the minutes. So you just click on it and change it, and then in your notes, and then save. Also, too, if the student leaves the district or exits the program or graduates, we disable them. So those are the three options to disable a student: is if they leave your district or charter, if they graduate, or exit special ed services. So the students remain in the system the entire time they're with your district or charter, unless those three options, and then we will disable them. To disable them, you just click the disable button. It's going to ask you, are you sure? You click yes, and it takes that student to an inactive student list. And that option is right here above the search buttons. So if I click on the inactive students, there's my inactive student. The data is still in the system. If you needed to access that data, you would just reactivate that student and then search the data for them. If the student comes back, you just reactivate them and then go back to the active student list. And then you can just go in and edit and update their grade level and their campus and any of their minutes. You can search by student name or by student ID. Again, the student ID is required in the system when you're adding a student. You can add a new student from the back end of on your student list with the add button, or across the tabs where I showed you to add a student. Okay, so we are in the dashboard. When you do click on the student list, it will automatically take you into the dashboard. So I'm going to go back out with my little home sign and show you how to go to the dashboard. So dashboard is here. That takes you to the back program. And like I said earlier, you can toggle with the home sign too. So I'm going to click the dashboard, and it takes me directly to the back of the program. Within the dashboard, you will see for the instructor, you'll have the time, your students, your inactive, and your groups. For the aides, they will have time and groups. So aides don't have access to monitor the students. And as I mentioned earlier, you just might check with your district if they have a process or a procedure in place on who's adding students, if they have one person assigned for that, or if they're allowing the teachers to monitor or manage their own students. So within your student data, your time entries, so these are the entries from the time tracking, and it will show you the user and the student, the campus, the subject, the service option, the total minutes, the stop time, and your notes. At each campus, you will see all the data logged for a student. You only have access to the data that have edit and delete buttons by your username. So you will see other users that have tracked data. And as you see here, there's other users for this, but I do not have access to their edit and delete buttons. So within this data, you can edit and delete your own data. We will have a system history that we are adding that will track that for your administrative staff. So if you do go in to edit, you may want to put a note of the reason why you've edited that data. So you can edit subject, the service option. So if you pick the wrong service option or the wrong subject, your stop times, and notes. So if you're going in, you may want to put an edit note in there that maybe wrong time entered, student left early, whatever note you want to put in here, and then save. If you did enter time for a student that wasn't there, or you needed to re-enter that time for some reason, you can also delete that. So just click the delete button. Are you sure you want to delete it? Yes. And then go back and re-enter that information. Within your campus, you can search by user. But again, like I said, if you search, you will not have access to the edit and delete buttons. You can look at that. So if you're managing an aide that's it's under your supervision, you can look at her data. You can select by student. So if you just wanted to look at Carmen's search, you can look at Carmen's data. Once you have the data up that you're searching for, you can download that to an Excel spreadsheet with the download to XLSS. And then once you have your spreadsheet up, it's going to show you the users that logged that time, the student's name, the subject, the service option, and it'll have the minutes and the notes. And so you can format this, give it a title, take it to, print it and take it to art if you need to. Okay, so you can also clear your search option over here. So I've got Carmen up there, but I'm going to clear that search option, then starts that over. You can search by name here if you want to. So if you have made a student inactive, you can search here for that information. You can enter certain date ranges. So if you needed to go back to last year's data, you can search date ranges in there. And then once you have your data up, create an Excel spreadsheet for that also. And then to scroll through the pages of the time data, the page that scrolls at the bottom, you got page numbers and then next and last, so you can scroll through the pages if you need to. You can right click print the screen, but you'd have to go to each page to do that. So it's much easier to search the data you're looking for and then download that to an Excel spreadsheet. Also, on the dashboard, you do have your student list back here. So same as on the front of the screen, you can click on your student list. You have an inactive student list, so you can check for inactive students. And then your groups. So this is where you will monitor your group and adjust your group. So it will have your group listed. And then if you need to edit that group, say one of those students is no longer in the part of that group, so you would just go and X that student out. And then you can go down to the list and select a new student for that group. If you need to rename the group here, if you needed to adjust the campus for that, you can do that here and save it. You can also add your group on this side too. So if you need to add a new group, it's just going to take you to the add group option, and then you enter the name of the group, the campus, and then your students and submit. So again, within the dashboard, your instructor has time, students, inactive students, and groups. Your aides will only have time and groups. And to toggle, I'm going to go back to the home side at the top of the screen. It takes me back to the time tracking. Just again, I want to restate that when you are through at the end of the day, I would log out of the program. If you just exit the browser, it's not going to log you out of the program and give you the alert. So if you actually log out of the program, then it will give you an alert if you left time open and running, and you'll have the option to stop it then and fix it and then save it. Also too, by logging out, if we do any updates, nightly updates, it will grab those updates. Otherwise, I recommend that you click the refresh button frequently to refresh the program and grab any updates if we made or any changes we made to the program. Okay, on the time tracking screen, you also have reports. Within your reports, there are two reports that your instructors would use, and that would be your time met and your not met. The not met report is what is actually based off the required times that are entered on the student list. Your total time that's entered on your student list is compared to this list, and this not met report starts over on Monday with the required time, and it ends on Friday. So if you have, for example, Carmen Glover has 30 minutes a day of inclusion time, and that's how much she's not met for today. Once that time's met today, her name will go off this list, and then it'll start back over tomorrow because she has daily time. Weekly time, if it was 30 minutes a week, it will deduct the time as you meet it, and then once both fields go to 0, her name will go off the list. So by Wednesday, as a teacher, I check this list. I can right click print it, or I can just export it to a spreadsheet. And my aide and I work from this list to see who needs to get in to get their time met. By Friday, your list should be empty if all your time has been met. And again, I log time for student, or don't log time. I log when students are absent, and I zero those times out. That way, if I look at my not met report and I see, well, on Friday, Carmen, I didn't meet any time for her, I'll go back and look. And if I see that she's been absent 5 days with the flu, I have that logged in my time data. So it saves me from having to go back and figure out why I didn't meet time with her, or whether they were on a field trip, or there was an assembly when I went to meet. Or if she went home early because she was sick, or she was pulled for a speech class maybe, or OT, or another service, I logged that. So that shows I went to meet that time and she was not available. Yeah, on Friday you can print this report. If you need to print this report, you can email it directly to someone else. Just enter the email address who it goes to, your email address, maybe a message, and send it, and that will send that report. You can also export this to a spreadsheet. And it will create a spreadsheet for you. So if you need to keep track of your not met time, there are several ways you can keep track of that data. Like I said, though, it does not hold any history for this report. So if you do need to keep it, I would print this on Friday afternoon. You have up until Saturday to print this report, and then it starts over Monday with the new list. And then you have your time met report. This is actually the time that has been met for your students. So you just select your service option based on what service option your district or your charter has named these service fields. If you want to look at all the instructors and all your students, I would leave these any instructor, any student. We will have your reporting periods loaded, so the date ranges are already in the system, so you don't have to pre-fill your date ranges. If you want to look for a specific date, that's where you put that here, the start and end. Once you have your search filter that you need, click go, and this will create a time met report for you. It will have your date ranges listed for your reporting periods, or whichever date range you've chosen. Your students, your time required is based on what you put in the student list, and then it will show you the breakdown by subject of how much time, where that time was met, and then the total time. Once you have your time met report filtered, you can email this report. You just enter the email address to who it's going to, your email address, and a message. Send, and it will send that report, and then it will send you confirmation that it was sent. You can also export this to a spreadsheet, and then you can title it, format the columns if you need to. So, if you didn't need these columns, you can go in and format these columns, delete them out, and whatever you need to do with this report. You just remember to filter the data that you're looking for, and then you create your report for, or your email that report. The other two reports, the contact hours report and your instructor contact, are mainly reports your admin would use. Your contact hours report gives you the total contact time, and you can look by specific instructor, specific student. If you want to know everyone, I would just leave it all. Your certain time period, and that's going to give you a total for that time period, what campus, how many students were served, and then their total contact time. Again, you can email this report or export this report to a spreadsheet. Then your instructor contact report. This is going to give you the breakdown by subject total time for instructors. So you select your service area, your time period. If you want to look at a specific subject, you can do that, or just leave all. If you need a specific instructor, you select that instructor, or you can just leave it all and go. And that's going to give me the users. It's going to give the breakdown of where they spent their time and the total time for that time period. Again, you can email this report directly or export that to a spreadsheet. The two main reports as an instructor that I use are my time met report and my not met report. Like I said, the not met report does not hold any history. So if you need to keep a track of that, print that on Friday. Your time met report is all the time, is going to be a report of all the time that has been logged in the data. So it will give you based on your search filters, it will give you what time was logged for that student in that specific time period. Okay, just a few reminders. It is an internet program. So if your internet happens to be out that day, or if you get, has an internet glitch, the program might run a little slower that day. If you do lose internet or power, you can still manually write down the time, and you can write down the time and then manually go back and enter that if you need to. And I would check with your district whether if you have a sub that day, how to handle that procedure, or if you whether or not they want that time logged in, or just keep that separate documentation if you do have a sub. Also, just a few reminders that it is a URL link. So once you get that initial invite and create your password, it will take you directly to the program. I would bookmark that URL, write it down. The user guide, you can print the user guide. There is a place on the front of the user guide to write down your information. Right here is the place to write down the URL. Your username is going to be your district email, and then password will be whatever you create. We do not have access to your passwords, and your admin will not have access to your passwords. The user is in charge of their own password. Now, on the initial invite, if you do not receive that, please contact someone at your district or contact us, and we'll be happy to check and make sure we have the correct email address and resend that invite to you. But once you have created your password, you manage those yourself as a user. So if you forget your password, you'll just go to the login screen to forgot password, or once you're in the program, if you need to change that, that is up here by your name. So you could change your password up here where your name is. And then also too, the campus, this is where you manage your campuses. So if you're assigned to more than one campus, you would do that here on this screen also. So this concludes the training for the Easy Sped Tracker for the users. If you have any questions or need to contact us, on the last page of the user guide is contact information. Also, too, there is a website, easyspedtracker.com. So on our website, there is contact information, a phone number, and the phone is answered during the day. If for some reason you don't get anyone, please leave a message, and we'll be back in touch with you within the hour. There is email information too. So if you have a question or you're having an issue, if you can shoot us an email with this email service email address, or you can also click contact us, and there is contact information that you can fill out for us, and just a brief message of what the issue is, and then we'll get that email and then be back in touch with you. So if you just leave us, a message and a phone number, how to get in touch with you. And if you are having an issue, we do need to know what device you're on. We also need to know if it's about a student, the student's name, what campus they're at. Same thing with the user. We need to know the user's name, the campus, and then the specific issue that you might be having with the program if you are having an issue. Okay, so this concludes the training for the Easy Sped Tracker users. Again, if you have any questions, please contact us or contact someone within your school district or your charter. Thank you.